way from Taipei to be with us today. And he's also going to be hosting ceremonies and dietas in both Johannesburg and Cape Town. So I'm not going to speak much longer. I'm going to hand you over to our guest for tonight. So let's give him a very warm welcome.
It's actually more unnerving to speak to a group of people than it is to speak to television, because TV camera, you can't see how many people are out there. So you got a little nervous. I've never done this particular talk before. I've talked about shamanism a lot, but this is the first time I've put something coherent about tobacco. Now, the irony is that my dad was a very heavy smoker, and I really hated growing up in that environment. And my grandma, when I was 7, I lived in Indonesia, and I was hanging out with the bad boys, and they were all saying, let's smoke some cigarettes. And we go out behind the shed or whatever, and we smoked, and I thought it was really cool. However, my grandma had a different opinion, and she called us, and she basically rubbed chili on my mouth, and made me stand in the midday sun, for about an hour with heavy books. And if there's any example of one-shot learning, that was it. Because I just said, sod it, it's really not worth it. And I never thought it was worth being a bad boy with cigarettes ever again. So actually I was a non-smoker, and I had no desire to smoke or be cool or any of those kind of things. So the irony is that I'm giving this presentation on tobacco. And I never really, even when I began working with the medicine, I never really expected to work with tobacco until the day happened when I was giving it. I was in the initial stages of my learning, and I was holding space. And the voice in my ear, which was the medicine, said, "You need to use tobacco." And I was like, "Really? Yes, really, you need tobacco." And I went, "Oh, okay." And I had some American spirit, and I kind of did a roll up, and I began to blow tobacco on this person, and then the medicine was coaching me and saying, "Yes, that's exactly it." And I was like, "Really, I've got to use tobacco." So that's the beginning of my journey with encountering working with tobacco. Now, after those initial stages of beginning to explore ayahuasca, beginning to realize there was a whole tradition behind this that I needed to encounter, I needed to be grounded, I went to Peru, and that's when I really got to meet tobacco face to face. So, and I realized then that it wasn't just an adjunct, it's a very important vehicle, a very important master plan of itself. And the objectives of this talk is to give you an overview. It's not to bog you down in that anthropological information, but basically to give you an overview of what this plant can do, and also some hands-on. So how many people do we have here? Who was doing registrations? Do we know how many people roughly we've got?
No, it's still downstairs.
Because I want to do some practical work. I mean,
I think we've got about 50 to 60.
That's great. I mean, I've got tons of batches here. Good. I'm glad I gave you that. Because actually, I bought these in Peru thinking I've got to give this talk. I better have it. I don't know, just in case it's a rush. So, even if you don't smoke tobacco, I mean, as a smoker, I would encourage you to engage with this, because I still do not technically smoke because I don't inhale. Okay, there's a way of working with tobacco which means you don't actually have to take it into your lungs. So my friend Lisa here, on the weekend, she was with me, and she discovered, you gave up, right? You've given up.
Yeah.
So she gave up, and I was going, go on, do it. I said, you don't have to inhale, it's okay. So are you feeling any cravings?
No, nothing.
So if you're trying to give up, don't worry, you can still maintain your focus and purpose. So, the way that tobacco is regarded in South America, and particularly the Amazon, is that it is a significant teacher. Within the Amazon, everything is alive. And if you've ever been to somewhere like Costa Rica, or I mean even South Africa, in certain parts of South Africa I think has the second most, is that right? The second most biodiverse region in the world. So there's this tremendous amount of life, and if you live in that environment, and it's not urban, and it's all these different species living together, you get a sense that everything is connected and everything is alive. And that's very much the worldview of the Amazonian Indians, in that they relate to the world in a very different way. The world itself is communicating in different ways all the time. There are lots of channels of communication. In fact, anthropologists have found that when they ask the Indians, how do you know about ayahuasca? Because ayahuasca is a product of two plants. 2 plants out of 180,000 different species. that can only work together. Now the probability of getting that right is 1 in 6 billion. If you scientifically tested that on your friends, families, and random acquaintances, you kill everybody. So it's not a scientific thing. And they all come back with this cryptic message: the jungle told us, or the forest spoke to us, or the forest gave us the dream that told us how to find these two plants together. So that gives you an indication that the epistemologies, the ways of knowing, are very different from our linear, book-based ways of knowing. So within that environment, everything is alive, the plants are alive, and the plants have intelligence. They can directly communicate with those plants. And within the range of plants, there are certain plants that stand out as teachers. They're called maestros, plantas maestras in Spanish. And if you like, the way to think about these plants is that they are like ambassadors, particularly ayahuasca. It's an ambassador conveying the knowledge and the wisdom of the plant kingdom and relaying it to us, being an ambassador and teaching us and healing us in the same process. And tobacco is an extremely important teacher within that environment. And it's ironic because when you look at the way that the West went to the New World, encountered tobacco, and then came back and started to use it for purposes that were very different, purposes that were recreational. There were some early experiments with health, but it became very much a process of using it for consumption. And the way it's used in the Amazon is very different. So that difference is enormous. And then you have to actually, when you go to the Amazon, you have to repurpose your whole vision about how to engage with this. First of all, the chief challenge for all of us who have grown up in the West is to actually realize that plants are alive, not just on a very superficial level, but are actually intelligent, conscious, and then to appeal to them for wisdom and knowledge. And so, because the native South Americans have lived with the plants for so long, they have this special relationship with lots of different plants, but particularly tobacco. Key. So let's run through some of those uses. About 1 in 100 tribes uses tobacco as an enema. As you can see, it's not very popular. Okay? That's a 1 in 100 range. The next option of using tobacco is to lick it, and 1 in 30 tribes uses that. 1/30 of the tribes. The next one is rapé, which is snuff. Now I have a collection of these little bottles, which I will show you later. But snuff is actually pretty popular as well. Snuff is basically ground tobacco, or rapé is ground tobacco, and it's applied by one person placing the rapé here and putting the mouth here and getting a volunteer to insert their nostril there, and then you basically blow it. And by blowing the tobacco, it opens up the sinuses, it opens up the actual energy channels. It does a lot of things. It's extremely powerful, and it's not to be sneered at. Or sneezed at. Thank you for that. We also used, in the 18th, 19th century, we also used snuff, and we also have, there's a little indentation here, where your wrist meets your hand, and that's where previously people used to take a little bit of tobacco. Even today, I think in the US, there's actually, and in Parliament in the UK, there's actually a box that's still there and it's still filled regularly for snuff for those gentlemen or gentlewomen who would like to partake of snuff. So it's still an ongoing tradition, it's dying down. It's extremely powerful because it's tobacco mixed with herbs. Sometimes you can get it pure herbs. This is Macarena, which is only herbs itself, but the general thing would be, hang on a second, this is a Kashinawa, a tribe called Kashinawa, and they have tobacco, ash, and herbs in here. Now this one is extremely powerful. It's often used at the end of ceremony. It's used as a purgative as well, so that if you're in ceremony and you're struggling to nail something that's problematic, you've worked with the medicine, but there's not enough of room in the medicine to really isolate what you need. If you take this, often what happens is that this is a medicine in its own right. It will reach deep inside you. It will actually pull that energy out and help you purge. At least that's what it does for me. In fact, no, that's a very romantic vision. It's usually like, oh my God, what was I thinking? You know, I'm hot, I'm sweating, I'm saying water, water. And I'm lying on my side usually, because I've just collapsed. But that's me. What was amazing was that when I was in ceremonies in Peru, we'd have these Russians come in. And the Russians are so hardcore. They'd go up to the shaman and they'd be bare-chested and they'd say, okay. And then he'd give them, you know, 2. And this would floor me. I'd be begging for mercy. No, actually, this is what I used to do. I used to think about it. I go, okay, I'm going for rapping. And I go up like this. I go, no, I'm not. And I'm thinking about it. I go, oh, God. You know, because the medicine's pushing me. Go on, go on, go on. So anyway. So there'll be some, I retire, I crawl back to my station and waiting for the purge to happen. But they would go up and they would get it and they'd just sit there like, it's good. I like it. Again. So, yeah. It's really serious. You know, but it's very deceptive because the first time I did rapé, it was very soft, very gentle. I was like, oh, so beautiful. Second time I did it with an Israeli guy, and I clung to the toilet for about an hour. It was just a whole different animal. So it's different times, different effects. Now, Macarena is very interesting. I want to tell you a very interesting story about Macarena. It looks really innocuous. It's just, I'll pass it around. Just take a little. It smells like spirulina. So, Macarena. I had one batch. I was introduced to it. I had one batch, and it was like a little pick-me-up, just like a little. Like this. And I thought, great. And I did this in Shanghai because you can have somebody apply this to you, or you can use the self-applicator. There you go, easy peasy. No one knows what you're doing. And I was in Shanghai airport. I thought, oh, screw this, I want it. And it was fantastic. So then I went to LA and I got that, wherever it is, I got that badge. And then I thought, I was in Seoul airport and I was at the boarding gate. I thought, I've got another 20, 30 minutes. I was just having a little pick-me-up. So I tried it, and as soon as I did it, I went, such a bad decision. I sank back, and I couldn't move, and I went, fuck me. Oh my God, it's just so powerful. I had no idea that this was going to be, that powerful. And I couldn't move, and I was like nauseous, and I went, oh my God. And then they called for the boarding gate. I was like, I can't move. And I struggled to my feet, and I had my carry-on, and I was weaving, and I thought they're going to chuck me off even before I get off because I look drunk. And I got onto the plane, and I leant against the personal entertainment system. We took off. I didn't even notice, and then suddenly, like half an hour before, I went, sick air back, and I went, bad idea. So I will never do Macarena in Korea again. So later on, I'll give you an opportunity. I'll have a model. I'll get somebody to experience this. I won't give you very much. I'll just give you a tiny taste of this because it could be overwhelming. We don't want to drive off, all the state. So, but this one is Yopo. Who's heard of Yopo? Right. I was very happy to find this because I want to try this one day. I haven't tried it yet. But Yopo is used with in Venezuela and Colombia. It is actually the most potent form of rapé you could find, if you like. Normally, this is a single nostril applicator. The Yopo has got a double applicator, both nostrils. Yeah, that's. So how does it work? Well, actually, also in the real thing is a 4 foot long double nostril applicator. So like I'd be, yeah, and you stand, right? You stand, and I'd be here, and then I'd blow as if I was trying to blow a hurricane. You just go both nostrils, and basically they're waiting to catch you as you fall down. You fall down in an altered state for about an hour. It's really powerful. So I'm looking forward to doing this at some point, but you have to be responsible, boys and girls. You need a sitter. If you ever want to do this, do not do this alone, because you don't know where it's going to take you or what's going to happen. So you definitely need a responsible adult.
Sorry, just
I think so, yes, exactly. So it's called varica as well. It's another word. So yeah, and it's not really a Peruvian. I don't really find rapé extensively used in Peruvian Amazon, but it's definitely Brazilian. And it's much more popular these days. You can go online and find it. It's very attractive because it's very easy to take. I remember I went to Serbia and I introduced it to the Serbians. And then next year the year after I went again, and they were saying, oh, but our aunties and our grannies, they love it. Do you have any more, right? So I'm responsible for an epidemic of geriatric drugs in Serbia, apparently. But they're related to the Russians, so they're Slavs, they're hardcore. All right, so. Chewing, that's quite popular as well. Drinking, that's very hardcore. But smoking is the most extensively used modality in working with tobacco. It's very much about communing and entering an altered state. Let's have a look at this. Some usages. Within ceremony, within the shamanic tradition, when we work with tobacco, it is almost the initial step of establishing a connection. Throughout the ceremony, we can enhance and strengthen the connection. We also use it as protection. There's a process. Let me demonstrate. Within the Shipipo tradition, the first thing you do is you want to connect with the spirit of tobacco. So if any of you are working with other plant medicines and you want to bring in tobacco, this is how it works in the Shipipo tradition. And you connect by singing. The verb to sing in this way, to awaken the spirit of any plant, is to icarar. Some of you may know the word icaro, which is a sacred song, but icarar is the verb. And it basically means to plant an intention in that object. Whether it's perfume, whether it's tobacco, you're going to sing to the object or the spirit. It doesn't matter what you sing, in a sense. The melody is not the carrier. The carrier is your intention. You could hum Baba Black Sheep if you want, and it would still work. So what I'm actually doing is I'm thinking on, is it really a prayer in song? So I'm making a supplication. So the words I would think would be something like, noble tobacco, please hear my prayer. Please enable me to connect with you. Please enable me to heal this person. Please enable me to protect myself. Please enable me to clean the space. Please enable me to carry the song that I'm about to sing for that person and then use that energy to help them to heal in whatever way. So this is the intention I'm going to sing. So it goes something like this. Three breaths at the end are called an whoosh, and that is to signify your gratitude at the ending of the certification. I'm going to sit here so you can see. Shame. People in the back. Well, okay, pretend I'm sitting. So, beginning it's the hands 3 times, then it's the head, then it's the chest 3 times. And then it's the left, right, down. Sorry, up, behind, down.
Any particular reason
So basically,
why,
so this is your initial stage.
any particular reason why 3 times?
For which one?
Just doing all of them. You're using number 3. Any particular reason?
I don't think there's a specific reason, it just feels like it's a good one. Then when you get into it, it's your own discretion. But that's the actual protection that I do in the beginning and establishing. And as you work the ceremony, you can, as you sing, and you stop the song, and then you can reconnect. It strengthens everything. That's what I was taught. That's what I followed. Sky, you've trained along as well. Do you still do that way? You changed it.
Initially, yeah, but now I just follow instructions, and sometimes it's more than once, and I'm doing it's guided.
Absolutely. So, and also, it can be used. Does everybody know what sage is? So sage is a great space clearer. It's a smudger. Also, there's Palo Santo, which can be used. It can be this. Palo Santo is the holy wood, and this is another great fragrance for those who don't know. This is another way of clearing space or protecting space. And often I've seen shamans actually clear the space, protect the space with just blowing, walking around and blowing. They will blow, and the word blow in Spanish is soplar. They supply the person, they supply all the journeyers, and then they're ready to begin. So there's different ways of working with tobacco in the beginning. Space cleansing, energy cleansing. During the ceremony though, the way I work with tobacco is that if I sit with somebody, I will prepare the song by preparing the tobacco first. I will sing the tobacco. Again, ask it for its help, and ask it to really become the foundation upon which the song can arrive. I hope we don't set off the smoke. And so you're really priming the body. And then, so what I would do, are we okay for the smoke levels here? What's the story here?
They're probably
downstairs.
Oh, okay.
there's no smoke to
They're pretty rare.
Probably don't work, to be honest.
Probably don't work.
Much like the lights.
Good, good. Right. Where's the upper arena? How's that doing?
Yeah, it's in my hand.
Oh, did you pass it to behind?
Yeah, all the way around.
All the way around.
Bring over around. Thank you so much. Just got to keep track of it. Okay. So it's surprising how powerful prepping the tobacco for the kara is, because what I would do is I would do basically the same. Lisa, can you do my model for a second? The window's open. Oh yes. There we go. Perfect. So again, the same thing would happen. I would bless the tobacco here, but it's a little bit different. I would go in front of her, get it ready, and I would actually blow, hold her. Can you see? I would hold her hands together. Okay, stand up for me. I'm going to hell. Okay.
It's okay, I've got a seat next to you.
Thank you. Okay. So I hold the hands close, and I blow. What I'm doing is I'm actually tracking the energy. It's not so much the smoke, because you can watch the externals and you see the smoke, but I'm actually tracking how the energy is going and being accepted into her body. So often the first time I supply her, I can feel maybe there's an imbalance in the arms, maybe go down one arm better, maybe down this arm, and then the second time I'm trying to balance that out. So And often I feel the energy going like this, and then actually wraps around and goes down the spine. And I follow it as far as I can. Again, third time, you really start to open up that channels. And I can feel it really being absorbed. And you're really prepping the body to receive energetically. Then last more thing. So I open the palms like this, and I just take a drag into my mouth, and then I open, and this cloud of smoke just descends into the palm. And then I close the palms, because there are two minor chakras where energy absorbs, and I just allow the tobacco energy to go here. Then, again, the same thing. It's a really neat trick you can do as well. You take a mouthful of tobacco, and then basically you open your mouth and allow the tobacco to descend. And then when you don't have to blow. If you blow it, it's going to ruin the effect. But the tobacco by the actual smoke sits on top of the head. It's a really neat party trick.
You look like a volcano.
Yes, it's just like, whoa! But actually it's allowing the tobacco to descend very slowly and gradually. The next stage is basically you open the chest, you blow the chest. When that's finished, you open the back, you blow it down the back. And there's usually some tobacco left. So what I would do with that is I would actually allow the medicines within me, or the plants within me, or my intuition, whatever it is, to see where the tobacco needs to go. Sometimes it will feel like there's an imbalance. There's like, I'll go, oh, this, spleen needs something, or the liver needs something, or even, oh, these kidneys are deficient, they need something energetic. Or even the sexual organs, they can be wildly balanced. And then that's the beginning of the singing session. So then I would basically begin with my Ikaro, and then the Ikaro would be delivered. What the Ikaro does is essentially, in Shipipo's tradition, it's very much like engineering. First I'm going to do this. I'm going to make the connection. Secondly, I'm going to open you up energetically. Thirdly, I'm going to align everything. Fourthly, I'm going to basically start cleansing, and then close that cleansing process. Fifthly, I'm going to start protecting you, and then I'll close the song section. Generally speaking, what happens during that singing can be very surprising. I was in Israel last year, and in the Shipipo tradition, you work in darkness, but the person's in front of you. So I sang, I used tobacco, I blew tobacco on them, I was singing, and suddenly I just opened my eyes for a second, they disappeared. It was like nothing there, and I was like, where have they gone? And I was trying to feel where they gone. The effects of the tobacco and the song was so powerful that that person just went vroom backwards, and just fell on their back, and just couldn't sustain themselves. So, and luckily they weren't abducted by aliens, but I had a panic for a moment. So, should we go outside? We think we should do outside. Because otherwise it should be tons.
Just in case there are any smoke alarms, so we're now going to go onto the balcony on the same level to do a practical. And guys, just make sure you come back after this because we've seen it.
Sure. Okay, one more thing to say about this. So what happens is that as the song is delivered and the actual intentionality of the song is absorbed together with the medicine and with the tobacco, what happens is tobacco is working furiously to really channel those intentions. And very often at the end of the song, I will move away and the person will just turn, or me, because somebody's working with me, and they will just turn and purge, because that's what the tobacco is waiting for. Boom. Very effective. Also, if you're very stuck, I don't know if you know this guy, I learned this year. If you're really, really stuck, one of my shaman teachers told me, don't drink water. If you need a purge, at the end of the moment, don't drink water. Take your tobacco. Sing to it. You know what I'm going with this? Sing to it and take a drag and swallow. Swallow the tobacco like you swallow water. And you will purge. Yeah, and it sounds disgusting, and it is disgusting, but it really works. It really works unless you're a heavy smoker. I also discovered the other day, I was working with a German lady, And she's like 20 a day, and really for many, many years. I said, oh, it'll work. And then 7 puffs later, 7 swallows later, nothing. I was like, so, but we're not going to focus on purging, we're going to just focus on the singing, and we're going to focus on the various movements, which is, if we remind you, what are they? You take a drag, it's 3 times. Take a drag and allow the smoke, second thing, allow the smoke to just gently leave your mouth into the cupped hand, and then wash the head with tobacco. The next thing you're going to do is down the front, and then finally left, right, right, up, left, back, and down if you want. But don't worry about getting the exact sequence. Go with what you feel is right. Yes?
Is the right, left, back thing just tradition, or is there a purpose to it?
The purpose is that you've got a circumference protection. So the order isn't very important. It's just that you cover all the basics.
Black and light, and then when I was giving it, it was like I was actually the one who was going to purge.
Really?
Because, yeah.
Okay. It's very strong tobacco. Anybody else? Thank you. Yeah.
I just feel very open.
Good. Give me your money.
Before I was very close open, and now it feels like my aura has expanded.
Yeah.
And it also feels like, the spirit of the tobacco knew, what the person needed. It knew where it needed to go. And it's like, it's not to interfere, but just to allow the energy
Sure.
to flow. Where
Do you guys know what an adaptogen is? We talk about superfoods.
Yes, I keep them.
What?
Also private joke.
Oh, you do not. Well, for those of you who don't know what an adaptogen is, it's like maca, or maca is a superfood, but it goes in the body where the body needs it. And the same principle applies with tobacco. It's going where there's deficiency, or it needs to be tonified, or whatever, or it just needs to work on something. Perfect. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
I experience a sense of honour and a sense of privilege in sort of blowing these intentions into others.
Yes.
That felt very striking.
Beautiful. And how was it received for you, sir?
I received, I felt the energy, I really did feel the energy. I felt the tobacco moving all the way through from my fingers right through my arms.
Anybody else? Yes, Lisa.
The first time I did it, I was scared of the tobacco
Yeah.
because I was worried I was going to start smoking again. Doing it a second time was a lot more open, a lot easier, and a lot more natural, almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your friends, it's an ally. Really, working with this is working in conjunction, in collaboration with this plant spirit to help you not only to learn, and we'll talk about that in a second, but also to heal. So, how does one connect in a deeper way with tobacco? The answer is, as is everything within this Amazonian tradition, is to do a diet, a dieta, a plant dieta. Now, some of you may know about the dieta that one does with ayahuasca to prepare for the ayahuasca. That is not a plant diet. That's a preparation diet to receive medicine. Plant diets are specifically to enable you to commune, to enable you to study. It's like going to school, basically. But the rules are that you need to sacrifice your material pleasures, food, essentially. Salt, sugar, oil, etc. Even sexual contact is important to abstain from that, social media, etc. Usually it's done in isolation. The reason being is that you want to quieten down and move into a phase of being rather than doing, and to move into a phase of receptivity. Once you give up see the thing about, I found personally with doing plant diets, is that a lot of my energy was thinking about what I'm going to have for lunch, what I'm going to have together with the lunch, and what I'm going to have for dinner. A lot of forward planning, a lot of organising my time to hunter-gathering mode, basically getting all my food organised. Once you know that everything is going to be oats or lentils and rice, you stop dreaming about what's coming next. In fact, you stop eating, pretty much. In fact, the Amazon represents to me an annual fat cap, because every time I go there, I lose about 10, 12 kilos. And every time I come out, I put on 10, 12 kilos. So it's a cycle I have to go through every year. But really, you're asking, whatever plant you're asking to learn from, you're making this sacrifice as a sign of reciprocity, because you're giving something. You're going to receive a very powerful knowledge and energetic upgrades and downloads and attunements. But in return, the plant itself wants to know if you have the right stuff. Do you have the ability to sacrifice these primal drivers of food and sex and enjoyment? And even sometimes preparing, I don't know how many of you have done other medicines, but sometimes even preparing to do plant medicines, even abstaining from salt can be a challenge. Even abstaining from sex for 7 days can be a tremendous challenge. I had somebody begging me, please, can we just make one exception? So, it's totally a mind game. Does the food control you, or do you control the food? And if you can vanquish this primal desire to have all these yummies, then you're on the step to really showing that you do have the right stuff. So that's basically what a plant dieta is. Because some people I spoke to said, oh, I've done a dieta, and they just listed all the medicines that they had done within a space of time. This is not a dieta. So with tobacco, the easiest way to begin with tobacco is to take a mapacho's worth. This is a mapacho, basically rolled up with pure tobacco inside, to unroll it and to put the contents in 1.5 liters, 2 liters of water. You let it steep, cold water, you let it steep for about 2 hours, then you strain the tobacco out of the bottle, and then you're left with 2 liters of slightly tinged coloured water. It doesn't really have much of a taste, but the energetic of the tobacco is within the water. And so what you can then do is you can then begin your tobacco diet for a period of time, 7 days, weeks, whatever it is. But you make a commitment to abstain from the salt, sugar, etc., for that period of time. And the way I recommend people do this is they take 50 millimeters in the morning. You're metric here, right? 50 milliliters in the evening, and you take it before you eat, and then you take it last thing at night. For the way I work. And essentially, you're looking to see differences. You're looking for dream states. Very often the plants teach us directly in the dream state. You'll have very vivid dreams, and it's those lessons within the dream states that constitute the teaching. Sometimes it's very difficult to articulate or to put into linear terms what you've learned, but your system gets the information. And oftentimes a diet is accompanied by ayahuasca ceremonies to consolidate, to heal, to cleanse, and to deepen, and to align and to strengthen the actual diet. So that's how one connects to tobacco, working in diet format and in ceremony format. And then what you're doing is you're developing an alliance with the plant spirit. So then when you need to, for example, prepare somebody, prepare yourself, you already have connection, because it's there. Essentially these diets are creating a fusion, a kind of plant-human being that is different to when you started. You're actually becoming semi-plant. Sky, do you ever have that experience in ceremony or other times that you've just turned into a tree, right? You turn into a plant. What have you done? You know around, right?
That's one of them, yeah. I dye flowers mostly these days. So flower was my primary.
How's the flower experience?
Can you put it in words?
Actually, lily, a rose are amazingly powerful, and I just opened up a raspberry tea leaf diet for someone. So flowers, because in the beginning, you know, I was an unreconstructed male, chauvinist male, and I went, flowers. and then, you know, I encountered them, and I had flower baths, and oh my God, what we do is we put the petals in the water, and they're also blessed by tobacco, and then you pour it over yourself naked, and then you let in the tropical heat, you just dry it off. You don't actually use a towel, you just let the energetic of that flower to infused water permeate your being, and then you go into ceremony, whole different ways. It's very, very powerful. And I had deeper respect for flowers. So yeah, flowers, not to be sneezed at, because they're very powerful. Okay, so that's the primary vehicle for connecting with tobacco. You can also use tobacco to cleanse your system. And I'm going to give you this for information's sake. Please don't do it without proper supervision. It's very dangerous. You can take the same mapacho and steep it in hot water. And this is a whole 5 minutes, not 2 hours, 5 minutes. And then you can drink that. You can drink just a tiny amount. So what then happens is you've had to have prepared 9 liters of water. Because then what you do is you drink that down, you wait about 5 minutes, and then you start drinking copious amounts of water. And you drink, and then boom, you purge. And then you drink again, and again, and again. Purge, drink, purge. And every time you purge, it'll be a little bit lighter in the actual color of what's coming up. And you continue to drink all of that water until there's just clear water. It is a horrific experience. It is very difficult. It could because you may be peeing, pooing, and purging at the same time. Make no doubt about it, it really cleans you. And not only that, when I've done it on a couple of occasions, it actually, the recovery, I have to go to bed and I lie in bed for about 12 hours straight, knocked out. Because it's energetically really demanding to keep purging. But you're very clean energetically after. So that's a hot, steeped tobacco drink. I do travel the world with tobacco in my carry-on because it's pretty legal, right? There's nothing wrong with tobacco, and I have no. I might have some other goodies in my luggage, but the carry-on is totally kosher. And I went to Israel, and I did some work there, and I did some cacao in Israel as well. And I then flew to Jordan to do some cacao work. And coming into Jordan was the problem. Leaving Jordan, however. So, excuse me, can we put through the machine again? My carry-on, right? Okay, whatever. And then they said, "Sir, please open your bag." What is this? What is all this? What is this? And he pulls it out and goes, "Hashish, marijuana?" No, this is tobacco. Hashish, because he's never smelled natural tobacco. He's only smelled cigarette. Hashish tobacco, hashish marijuana. Yes. I'm like, no. And the irony is, he's just standing 5 meters away from racks and racks and racks of cigarettes, Marlboro, and all this. No. I get the expert. So I'm waiting there, I'm totally calm, and he comes along, and and he goes, "What is this? Hashish? Marijuana?" Oh my God, this is the expert, right? So and then he sits down and he pulls his all out. He goes, "What is this?" And I go, "This is like tobacco, but who knows?" He goes, "Oh, where did it come from?" I go, "It comes from the Amazon." And then, as luck would have it, I had a random quartz crystal in the bottom of the bag. And he goes, "What is this?" He didn't say marijuana, actually. And he goes, "What is this?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me? You've never seen a crystal?" He said, "Crystal." Oh, and then, as luck would have it, there's a random AAA battery together with us. He goes, "How does it work?" And he starts banging it. And I thought to myself, but I didn't say it. If you bang it hard enough, you get crystal meth. Well, luckily I didn't say that. So anyway. But actually, I was pooing myself because when I was in Israel, I actually went to a major hospital that had a marijuana clinic, and you had all these old biddies and really straight people queuing up for their medical marijuana. And I thought to myself, I just hope to God there's not a trace of anything. But luckily there wasn't, because everything was very, very clinically delivered, and there was no contamination. But I was a bit like, I'm really up shit creek. They found my editing. Ah, marijuana! Finally! Oh, and then he was very... Actually, there was one guy, and I was waiting there, and I thought, play it cool, open your iPad, give me a spec. If you like look nervous, then you go, oh, heavens. So, and I said to, oh, it was really hot. I said, can I have some water? He goes, you, huh? Like this. I was like, really big power guy. Okay, whatever. But the actual, the supervisor was really sweet. He said, thank you, sorry, sir, I apologize. So, whew. Dangerous business carrying tobacco. This is called a Matzo. It is actually, rolled tobacco leaves. And this is, you can buy this in Peru, and then you take it home and you chop it up and then you grind it, and this is actually really pure. I'll pass this around, you can smell it. I've got another one, actually. I'll give this side. So, does anybody have any questions about tobacco before I move on to wrap up? Any questions about tobacco? Does anybody work? Yes, go on.
So you would do the protection, the self-protection before you then administer,
Yeah.
the treatment of
Absolutely. So self-protection, first of all, and then the other part is, if this is a flask of medicine, I would sing to this, and then I would souffle or blow a prepared mapacho into the medicine, close it again, and then shake it. Because you're mixing and you're connecting, you help the tobacco to connect with the medicine. Also, tobacco can be used when you dye with other plants. Let's say I'm going to dye with oak, or lily, or rose. We can again sing to the plant being dyed with, and in this case, the tobacco acts as a messenger, as an intermediary, as a mediator to help you connect with people. Some of the people take it to an extreme. They actually put the tobacco in the mix. That one, no? I don't recommend that. It's really harsh in the system. I remember doing the diets at the centre and just lying on my bed, like immobile for the whole evening. Like, I can't move, otherwise I'm going to be sick. It's just like very, very tough. So you don't have, you just blow tobacco.
Yeah, excuse me.
Yes.
From what age would you say that someone should start working with tobacco?
That's a very good question. In the Amazon,
Yeah.
I've seen children as young as 8, 9 take the medicine. So it doesn't have that framework around it of being a drug. So they are given a little bit. And they, like wine in Spain, children grow up with wine. It's normal. They don't become alcoholics. They just become habituated. Yes, ma'am.
Mine and Rob's teacher's little son, 3 years old, was learning to use it.
And again, they learn in context. They don't smoke recreationally. In fact, some of the students start going crazy from passion and they're smoking like crazy. And this is not how it should be treated. Yes. I saw a hand go. Who are you?
Is there a specific way of drying the leaves or processing the leaves?
I think they're all sun-dried, actually.
So it's as natural as possible.
As natural as possible. I mean, this has nothing. If you can't find, it's actually not easy to source mapachos or matzos. They're expensive if you can buy them online. But I equally work with American Spirit. It's probably one of the best ones out there. If you could find this, I'll pass this around. This somebody gave me when I was in France, and I just loved it. Let's see if it still smells as good as it did. This is called Mayan Spirit, actually made in Chiapas. So I'm gonna wind up by talking about rapé. If there's no more questions about you.
Just it's pretty easy to overdose on it. So it's a poison, right? It's like
everything is a poison at a certain level, even water. It's a lethal dose of whatever it is. In what way would you say poison?
Well, I would say, I mean, nicotine is the poison, but the drinking it, how easy is it to cross the threshold of where it becomes dangerous?
If you do the cold press, it's very, very unlikely, because it's almost like a homeopathic level. Because it's slightly tinged. If you see the difference color between a hot infused mapacho, it's a completely different ballgame. People can die during the hot drinking, because it can overweight the system. So that's why it needs. And actually, most of the deaths you hear about in Peru, they go, oh, it's ayahuasca. Actually, if you dig down, it wasn't ayahuasca. It was the tobacco purge. So yeah, it's going to be done very, very easily. Some traditions, some people veer away from tobacco and say never ever do that. It's too harsh. And some traditions say it's actually required, almost as a rite of passage as well. So, rapé. Let's try some Macarena. I had a gentleman who wanted to volunteer. I had one person who came first. Who was it? Yeah. You know who you are. Come over there.
Let's sit down.
Yeah. So if you need to see at the back, just stand up. You need to be seated for the moment. All right. There are various ways of working with rapé, but this is the one I formulated to make the person feel comfortable as well. So I'll talk you through it. Bear in mind, again, rapé, like anything, can be abused, and there are people that because you can buy it online, they just do it every morning, and they start to lose its medicinal application or the medicinal sense. I'm going to give him the Macarena as an example. So, for me, 3 of these is way too much. I'm going to give him 2. No, I'm being kind.
Gender discrimination.
Oi, I heard that. Who said gender discrimination? Come on, you're next. Not gender discrimination.
You got sharp ears for.
Dude. So, I begin. Again, intention is everything. So what I'm going to do, let me sit down. Let me get a chair. Please, can I grab a small chair?
That's easy.
I want to make sure that everyone's seeing. Just like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm inserting one of the nostrils. What I do is first I put my hand on the shoulder. It's just a very reassuring touch. Is this reassuring? The thing is, breathe through your mouth. Because if you breathe through your nose, you're going to pull it all up. So, just wait. Breathe through your mouth. And again. Breathe. And exhale. Perfect. We're doing this 3 times. One more time. And exhale. Second time. Exhale. Third time. Inhale. Close your mouth. Close your throat. Hush, 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 hush. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Hush, 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 hush. Hush, breathe, breathe. Hush, 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 hush. Hush, 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 hush. Hush, hush, hush. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Hush, 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 hush. And the hush, hush, breathe, breathe is catching out, calling the spirits down. I like doing the fan because I get really hot. No, it's not like this. It's for here. When I do it, I get really hot. We wait. Often there's a tear that drops from the eye. And we just, as the person doing it, attract the energy as it moves through the body. You can feel the head opening up. Sometimes, if you close your eyes, you can see the energy spiraling downwards and outwards. How do you feel?
Pretty good.
You feel it? How did it enter your body?
Into the eye and then to the top of my head.
How does the other side of your body feel?
Untouched.
Untouched. 2-step process. Okay.